Namaste. Welcome back to Mindful Surrender Yoga with Nancy. And we're going to continue answering questions from the jar. These are 10-minute answers to questions that have been posed to me or posed to other people, or I've got collected from a variety of resources. And I attempt to answer them and hope that I will assimilate what I've learned. I'm more or less testing myself. It is a learning practice more so than a teaching practice. And I teach so that I learn, and I learn when I teach, so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I am not proposing by any means to be an expert in anything. I know very little when it comes to knowledge, in the sense, the true knowledge, the important knowledge. I am just learning. So I do this exercise, and I hope, though, that you will get something from it. I'm sure there's little pieces of wisdom in what I have to say. Not my wisdom, but wisdom that I've collected over the years. I've been practicing for 25 years, practicing yoga in the true sense of yoga for 25 years now, and I have been looking to gain a better understanding of life, why we're here, and what we're here to do and be over the course of that 25 years. So I have been reading and gobbling up everything I could that would help to get me there, listening to eons and eons of people, and studying, I guess, would be the thing that I do. So anyway, I'm going to try to answer a question now. I'm going to put my start button on. I'm going to reach down and grab a question from the jar. Let's hope it's not a big one. What 3 action layers does karma involve? What 3 action layers does karma involve? I'm going to take a deep breath. That's a tough question. I am reading a wonderful book now on karma. It's probably one of the best books to help me understand karma, written by Sadhguru in 2021, out by Harmony Books, I think it is. And it's called Karma, A Yogi's Guide to Crafting Your Own Destiny. It's a wonderful book, and it really taught me a lot, all I need to know about karma. So what I do know from that book and from other studying I've done on karma is 3 action layers that karma involves. Is the body, physical action, mental action, and energetic action. So when we look at action, it's basically what we do, right? We think of action in terms of doing. What do you do? Karma is said to be accumulation of cause and effect. So we get effects from causes. Whatever we do has a ripple effect, and the causes of those ripples will spread out, causing effects, even greater effects. So we accumulate the effects of our actions, and the 3 actions we're talking about are our mental actions, our physical actions, and our energetic actions. What are our mental actions? Our mental actions are basically anything to do with the mind. So Patanjali would have said the mental modifications, and yoga is said to be a way of ceasing the mind from rippling, because it's those ripples or those mental modifications that cause the greatest amount of so-called suffering in our lives, or the karmic effects. So mental modifications would include, of course, our thoughts and our thinking. We have to realize on a daily basis we probably think about 60,000 thoughts, and 80% of those thoughts are negative self-talk directed at reprimanding who we are. Those thoughts come from a variety of sources, mostly from people who had a great influence on us as we've gone through our life stories. So we have thinking, mostly negative thinking, as part of the mental actions. The mental actions are also our feelings and our emotional experiences. So with a thought, if you have done any CBT training or therapy, or understand it in all psychological terms, it comes from something called rational emotive behavioral therapy. But it's all about this idea that our thoughts create our feelings, and our feelings create our behaviors. So I think that fits really nicely into this mental action component when we're trying to understand karma. So we think a certain thought, say for example, I'm looking down at my bank account, I said I have no money. And I feel a great deal of anxiety and desperation to get money. And that may lead to a certain behavior. It may lead me, for example, to rob a bank. Okay. Something along that line, of course, being exaggerating, but that is a form of the mental actions that can lead to karma. But we don't have to actually rob them. This is the cool thing about karma, understanding karma. We don't actually have to rob the bank to accumulate the effects of that thought, of that action. It is the thought or the volition, the intention of doing something, the reactivity component that comes with the thought upon looking at a situation in life that can cause our karma. Just the thought itself, I want to rob a bank, which leads to that feeling, that desperate feeling, which also adds to karma. Well, just think of it. You just had the thought and the feeling. Well, then it's adding this negative karma to you, because the thought and feeling itself creates this sense of stress, physiological stress. The body becomes overactivated. We're having, and if it stays for a chronic period of time, we can have the, according to the general adaptation syndrome, we can have fatigue and exhaustion and burnout and illness, physical illness. So that illness could be a karmic effect of the thought of I don't have money. So it all works its way around as a ripple effect. The feeling, of course, we know have a great deal of correlation with our physicals, the way we feel physically. So again, feelings can cause, anger causes, they said there's a correlation between anger and heart disease and ulcerations in the abdominal area, just for an example. So then let's say that's the mental action. So our mental actions, we have to be very careful about what we're thinking, basically. And we have to be very, very careful about what we're feeling. Though these energies are just energies and they're going to come and go, and we can't stop the mind from doing what it's doing, we just have to be mindful of what actions we take or what we're thinking and intending based on these energies. If we had just look down and say, oh my goodness, I have no money, that feels terrible, as a thought comes in, I don't know what I'm going to do, I feel terrible, and just allow that experience of thinking that thought and feeling that way to come into our system, it will eventually pass out. But the karmic effect really comes when we say, no, I don't want that. I don't want it to be this way. I got to change the outside world so it's not this way. And that's what usually causes the karmic accumulation. The next action that we look at besides the mind is the physical action, which would be the actual behaviors that we do. So we may go out and rob the bank, that physical action of using the body to rob the bank. If we feel a certain thought that leads to anger, we might turn around, punch somebody in the head. That's the physical action that's obviously going to have a result, a karmic effect. And we're more likely to see the physical, the karmic effects of physical action than we are any other action, because the laws are out there, because something that can be observed by others, therefore we can try to control it and limit it through our social sanctions and laws and whatnot. So punching somebody in the head is going to have a very obvious effect. It's assault charge, right? So it's the obvious karmic effect from that. So the physical effects. And again, we can use the physical effects in terms of what happens to the body, or what we do with our bodies. Self-harm and those types of things can lead to what we drink. Say, for example, if I'm a chronic drinker and I'm drinking every day, the karmic effect of that, ingesting those toxins into my body and not taking care of this vessel that I've been given so that I can get around this planet with better, I may end up with liver disease. So there's just that, again, very obvious correlation between the karma and what we're doing physically, more so than it is mentally. The third one is even more challenging to understand, and that's our energetic actions. Our energetic actions is what energy do we express out there. Are we up or are we down? And you've always heard, people saying since the 70s, oh my gosh, I get bad vibes from that person, or his energy brings me down, or her energy brings me up. And you can go into a room with people who don't say a word, but you may find yourself all hyper and whatnot when you're sitting beside them. And then the same thing can go when you sit beside someone who is, not saying anything or doing anything, but you just notice that when you're with them that your energy levels are going down. So there is this transfer of energy. We are energetic beings. Everything is energy. So whether you think it's spiritual woo or not, we're all energy. Energy is the source. Atoms, right down to the molecular level. It's very scientific. We're all energy. So we do have energy coursing through our bodies, and if we have it blocked in any way, that creates the low energy. So negativity brings the low energy down. If people are thinking negative thoughts and feeling negative feelings and acting out negatively, then the energy levels are going to be negative. So we're going to see a negative karmic effect of that. Being around that negative energy will create negativity around us, and it will change the course of other molecules. If you think of energy, how one atom affects another atom, one molecule can affect another molecule. So we can think of that in scientific terms. So definitely the energetic actions. One big way of understanding this is Shakti flow, which is the yogic interpretation of the natural energy that flows through us. It's meant to be flowing all the time. It's joy, bliss, love, all the great things, all those high energy emotions. And it's meant to be coursing through us, or meant to be this having a complete experience of this high energy. But we often close up to life because it's painful, or we're resisting some of it. So when we close up, we're not experiencing that high energy low, and that brings our energy levels down, resulting in low or negative karmic effects. So if I'm high energy, I may notice that everything in my world seems to be going right, I'm just getting the job I want, I'm meeting the person I want, money's coming into the bank. And then when I'm low, I may notice that I'm attracting negative people to me. I'm attracting negative circumstances to me. I'm, gravitating towards the negative. The law of attraction received a lot of, I think they did, it's not what we think it is, not what we're taught to believe it is. But there is a natural universal law called the law of attraction, and negative energy will attract negative, positive energy will attract positive. So we will see those karmic effects. So karma then is a very practical way. It's not what the woo used to think it is. Think of it as. It is basically the cause and effect of what we think, feel, do. And I said with the physical action also comes what we say, our speech and how we talk to other people. Do and speak, and how we express our energies. So we may not be too aware of our mental and energetic consequences, but we should be mindful of how we think and mindful of how our energy levels are. But the physical is so obvious. It's probably the first one we will tend to think of when we think of karmic effects, and that make it allow us to see it in a practical sense rather than the practical woo-woo way most of us tend to still view karma. Anyway, that is all I'm going to say for now. Time is up. Thank you so much for joining me, and namaste.